Radio Company presents another adventure with the E. Stanley Jones, the man, the mission, and the messages, how to live fully, starting right now and forever. And today, a notice of sadness and graduation, and two books you really need to know about. Greetings once again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another adventure of the E. Stanley Jones, the man, the mission, and the messages podcast. My name is Stan Houston. I'm your host, and it's good to be with you. And today we begin with a note of sadness, and as one of my great friends and mentors said, and a notice of graduation. We've had Roberto Escamilla on the program, and he will be a regular. But lately, he has told me, and his family has informed me, that his wife was not doing well. Well, now we got a notice of her passing. Her name is Dorothy Escamilla, and she is a story of inspiration in herself. And Roberto, who's had a long and glorious ministry, says that I've been married to her for 70 years. They celebrated their 70th wedding anniversary on just December 24th last year, Christmas Eve last year. And she passed this week. And I just wanted you, those of you who know, you can check with local and other sources, but there will be a service of graduation. She has graduated to glory, which will be held this Friday, February 21st at 2 o'clock in the United Methodist Church in Ada, Oklahoma. And I'm sure either through the various organizations that you know of, or you can find out more about that, it will be this coming Friday at 2 o'clock, a service of remembrance of Dorothy Escamilla and her story. And I've had an opportunity to read her story, and it is truly an amazing story. And we'll talk more about that on a later program. Blessings on her name and her memory, and of course our thoughts and prayers with Roberto at this time, and with the Escamilla family, and of course the lives she changed, impacted were many. Best and blessings. Very much today, I want to keep it short, but it's a way of making sure that you are aware that we want this ministry. Now, please keep in mind, this is a business that ministers. There's a difference. I'm a businessman. I'm not a priest or a prophet or a pastor. I'm a businessman. Spent some time as a missionary, but I'm a businessman. And this is a part of the work we do, the way we serve others. And so we are going to continue this program, and we're going to hope that it will go and grow, so that not only will we have podcasts, but we will have teaching programs and other events which are focused on the fact that Stanley Jones has messages for today that were written years ago, preached many years ago, but so much ahead of his times, both in missionary practice and interpretation about how the good news of Jesus could be lived out even today. He's still, 50 some years after his passing, influencing people like you and me. Even today, I was reading through Unshakable Kingdom, because my friend Ed Hurd had said that he wants me to read that, and then he's going to teach me a little bit about it. And I'm looking forward to reading Unshakable Kingdom and the Everlasting Person. But I just wanted to mention that there's two things that have happened. First of all, the book, one of the first books that Stanley Jones wrote, was in 1925. So it's the 100th anniversary of the Christ of the Indian Road. And there's been an expanded edition. Well, let me tell you a little bit about a couple book stories, and then we'll mention a little bit more about this. There's another book that I read regularly, which is also 100 years old, and many of you have heard about it. It's called Streams in the Desert, an incredible book of affirmations and prayers and thoughts about living through the difficulties of life. And this book itself also was first published uh, very much by what was called the Oriental Missionary Society, uh, by a woman named and she used that term, Mrs. Charles Cohen. And it was a way of putting together a number of thoughts. And this book has survived. It's still a good seller, uh, but it's at 100 years old. My copy was 1941, but it's 100 years old, and the book itself, you can see, um, it's well. I've had to put these seams back together a number of times, and all of these things are points where there was something that struck me a great deal, and so I would write something in, or I would underline, or put something in it. And you know how that works. And every time I did that, I put a little red marker, and sometimes I put green and blue. But this is still a book that I read regularly, though I think I've read it many, many, many times. But it always seems to be a book of encouragement to me, particularly in the difficult times, when you're in the desert part of life, which a lot of us are going through. Streams in the Desert is 100 years old this year, and it's still fully alive. It's an alive book, and we very much appreciate it. And I have some visions of bringing some voice to it, which is very much a possibility now through the new modern radio technology of making things like that happen. But that goes right along with the book, which has been recently published by the United Methodist Publishing House, Abingdon, because they published some of the first one. I mean, you see here, the camera doesn't want to always pick it up just right, but here it is, The Christ of the Indian Road. The Christ of the Indian Road. And what it was revolutionary at its times, because Stanley Jones made his way, and he found out that being a Methodist missionary in India was very, very different from being a Methodist pastor in America. And how he learned to not go as a foreign missionary trying to impose Western and Christian values on the people of India, but how he could begin to reach people, not through the quote, the Christian religion, or certainly the Western civilization that obviously that the Christian religion was primarily involved in, but that there was Christ, Jesus, was in India, on the Indian road, and his job was to present Jesus, his wisdom, his grace, his mercy, his transforming power to the people of India. Christ of the Indian Road. Now, I've been going through it. I think I may have read parts of it years ago, but now I'm reading the new version. And what has been done, Mr. Leonard Sweet wrote the foreword, and along with Ann Matthews and some of the people at Abingdon, they have asked modern contemporary people of different cultures to write an introduction to Stanley Jones. And I must say, they've done an incredible job. And I'm going through it now. And one of the things I oftentimes do is, you can see, I oftentimes put a little ribbon as a bookmark. But then I always have my favorite little black Murado pencil. I make pens and collect them, and I collect pencils. It's a cheap hobby. And I always get this one, and I put it in the bookmark So when I'm reading it, I always have something there to underline or take notes with using my black pencil as a bookmark. So that's what I have done, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm moving ahead on the chapters of the Christ of the Indian Road. And Abingdon, the press of the United Methodist Church, has published this, and I would fully recommend it to you. And protect, as I have done now, as I'm getting the original version, which they basically have just simply expanded that slightly, brought it slightly up to date, but it's still very much the text that Stanley Jones wrote, along with the additions and the commentary that bring it right up to date, because obviously India is a very different place in 2025 than it was in 1925. The Christ of the Indian Road. I recommend it soundly and thoroughly to you, and we'll be talking more about that. Well, that's it for today. We are in challenging times. None of this would have surprised Stanley Jones. Remember, if you read his story, and I've read the wonderful biography by Robert Tuttle, which really, again, a must-read book about the life. That was not a safe place, not at all. In the midst of uprisings and nationalist uprisings, and then, of course, war, plus the constant disease and the tropical things that would afflict people, and obviously living in a difficult foreign culture. The life of Stanley Jones, and talk about a hero. He had a woman named Mabel who was his partner, and probably, as some would say, every bit as significant to the story of Stanley Jones would be Mabel. And as Roberto would probably say, and every bit as significant to the story of Roberto is, of course, Dorothy. God uses men and women. He uses people of all ages and stages. And my prayer, as I'm very much kind of coming to my burning bush year, is that that he will find that there is still an encore project, no matter what your age and stage. As I've challenged people, if you can find the word retire in the Bible, I'll give you $10,000. And of course, that's a very safe bet because it's not there. Jesus said, go into all the world and retire. No. And if you are retired, you know that that's not an indictment of you. It's simply a way of saying that God probably has an encore project. And that's part of the work we like to do, helping people who now retired from maybe corporate life or the life of business to find that God, just as Stanley Jones, to the very end, lived out some of his finest work in the encore stage of his life. Thank you for your time. Best and blessings. Please reach out to me. I'm grateful for your help. If you'd like to know how you can help me sponsor the program, please reach out to me. StanHouston@gmail.com. StanHouston@gmail.com. All the best and blessings to you. Till next time. We've got a lot of next times, I hope, by God's grace and goodwill, as we go through the life of Stanley Jones, the man who was teaching us years ago how to be fully alive, how to live, not just be alive, but to live fully alive now and forever. Peace be with you. Jesus indeed is Lord. He is Lord indeed. Bye for now.